Good afternoon and welcome back to Kirkstone. We've been having a bit of a rearrangement this morning because it's been a nice sunny day. I've done a little bit of work on the greenhouse, but I just thought I'd get all of these small rosette forming plants together. So aloes, Hawa Theas, agaves, gasterias and others of that ilk have all been put together into one place because I needed to make space so I could stand on the staging to do a little bit of work, which I've now done. So you can just see behind me we've now got the replacement polystyrene sheeting on, which has replaced the glass. But the postman's been, so we can just walk up past the tomatoes, which are just about finished for the year, and there are some, yes, they are tomatoes, and walk into the end of the greenhouse, which is where my potting shed is, where you're used to seeing me, and see what the postman has brought. Well, there's lots of things it could be, but I'll tell you what it is. What we have here is a small box from my good friend David Neville, who trades as Solent Guy on eBayUK. Now I've got no idea what's in this box. It's not a big box and it's not a small box, but I'm going to try and resist adopting the unfortunately clumsy nomenclature of a meso haul, because we have our micro haul, which is basically 6 plants, or 7 really, and then we've got a meso haul, which we're not going to call anything, it's just a haul. And then of course we've got a mega haul, and we've got a fantastic mega haul coming up at the weekend. Don't miss it. You'll really be surprised at what's to come. So David Neville, trading as Solent Guy, has sent some interesting things, shall we say, and we'll do them on a bit of a one-by-one basis. Now the first plant we've got is a genus that I've been interested in for a long time, and I only have one plant of this genus, and it's all part of that complicated Ornithogalum albuca relationship that you're not quite sure which species belongs in which genus and whatever. But this small plant here resides, as I'm fond of saying, under the rather lengthy sobriquet of Bonet, that being the particular genus I'm referring to, Bonet mesembryanthemoides. Now you really can't imagine what this plant feels like. It feels extremely strange because the leaves are little more than flaccid, liquid-filled sacs. And as is common with a lot of these smaller bulbinets, we have these carrot-like taproots, which actually do the main function of the plant. They do most of the metabolic functions that keep the plant alive. But for a very short period of the year, the bulbinet sends up these very small mesembryanthemum or Hawa Thea-like leaves. So there we are, that's Bonet mesembryanthemoides from our friend David Neville, also known as the Solent Guy. I don't know if that's his superhero name, it might be, on eBay. And what else has David sent this time? Well, we know. I'm not going to wax lyrical about my probably favourite cactus genus, but this is a new addition to that genus. And this is Jimno Coliseum apertum. So another lovely small Jimno. Now this is going to be a very fiercely armed plant because this is a very small specimen, about 1 inch across, but if we were to include the spines, probably 2 inches across. So for such a small plant, it's got a magnificent array on display there. So a bit like a Jimno Coliseum armatum, it's going to be a spiny little devil. Anything else? Anything else? Well, yes. speak of the devil, and he shall appear, the old saying goes. And I did mention the genus Jimno Coliseum. So we have another addition to the growing clan. And we are going to do a big feature on Jimno Coliseum very soon. So don't miss that one. And this is an this is a beautiful plant. You know, I have a real fetish for plants that are an unusual colour. And that is an amazingly symmetrical, which I like, very, very dark Jimno. And that is Jimno Coliseum Bertie. And you may just be able to see, in between the soil particles there, an incredibly fat conical taproot. Jimno Coliseum Bertie. So I'll put that next to its label so that no unfortunate happenstance might occur. Anything else from David? Well, there is. And this is another Kelly Griffin hybrid aloe to add to the groaning shelves. And this is a Kelly Griffin hybrid called Donny. Now, I did talk before about Kelly Griffin hybrids and how they were, I'll just ignore the pot there as it's only loosely attached, as they have a trade name, as it were, and a bred name. So when Kelly actually bred this plant and created this hybrid clone from whichever complicated ancestry he managed to contrive, he actually called this plant Bright Star because he liked it. But when it hit the mass market, for whatever strange reason, the people who actually launched it onto the horticultural market decided it was much more appropriately called Donny. So we have Donny, we have Franco, we have Marco, we have Vito, we have a whole Italian mafioso string of names for whatever reason. But there we are, it's Aloe Bright Star, also known as Donny, and a little tiny pot for me to do probably absolutely nothing with. Anything else from David? Well, yes. I'll try and stick to a theme if I can. So we were, before we got rudely interrupted by a usurper from the aloe ranks, we were looking at the Jimno Coliseum genus, and it just so happens we've got a couple more. I'm inordinately fond of Jimno Coliseum, and one day some psychologist will be able to explain why people gravitate towards certain genera of cacti and not others. I really don't know. But this is a plant you often see in supermarkets and elsewhere in its mutant Hebotan red form, grafted unhappily onto some other stronger plant. But this is the normal green form growing on its own roots, and this is Jimno Coliseum Friedrichii, I know it as, but more recently it's been subsumed into a broader taxon, Jimno Coliseum Stenoplurum. But whether you call it Friedrichii, whether you call it Mihanovicii, or whether you call it Stenoplurum, it's a very lovely dark green angular little plant. And we have another Jimno Coliseum coming up. And this is Jimno Coliseum Quaelianum. Q-U-E-H Lianum. And again, there's that lovely, lovely, lovely geometry there. So attractive to my eyes that the plant looks as if it's been designed on a computerized package. Isn't that beautiful, beautiful plant? Jimno Coliseum Quaelianum. Flattened globular, or depressed globular, I think a botanist would probably call it. Almost disc-shaped. You can see those lovely roots that snaked all the way down to the bottom there. Very healthy looking plant. Lovely. Great plant there from David. Do we have anything else from David? We do. Well, we have a species aloe. Wow. We seem to be drowning in hybrids at present. And you did see the aloe benches along with Hawa Thea and agave and their relatives at the start of this video. And this one will be joining them very soon. And this is a very, very, very attractive, very pale green aloe, which forms into almost a dichotomous growth pattern when it's new or when it's young. You can just see there the first 5 or 6 leaves are in that very ad-pressed two-dimensional format. But then the more recent leaves, the newer leaves, are actually breaking out of that as it transposes its morphology from a two-dimensional to a more rosette-form shape. And that is Aloe longistyla, a slightly larger growing plant than a lot of the plants I grow. I do tend to stick to smaller plants. There's Aloe longistyla. And then we have some more members of that family. So these are the Asparagus. All those plants which are related to lilies and asparagus. And this is a taller growing Hawa Thea, almost like an astrolabe in oval format. This is Hawa Thea coarctata. So in form a little bit like Hawa Theopsis fasciata or attenuata. But this is a plant which eventually forms small columns as opposed to remaining sessile and rosette form. And we've already got some youngsters growing on the side there, whether you call them daughters or offsets, or in America I know people like to call them pups, but we've got some young ones there, 1 and 2, nice and symmetrical on either side. So that's Hawa Thea coarctata. Trying to artfully display these for the final team lineup. Any more from David? Yes, there is. I shouldn't do that one now, should I? Right, I'll do this one next because we were on a Hawa Thea theme. So this is another well-known columnar Hawa Thea. Just tease that pebble out there if I can. Reluctant pebble. Come on. Now this is a smaller growing form of the well-known Hawa Thea Reinwartii complex. Now this is called Hawa Thea Reinwartii Caffeidriftensis. And finally, a little cactus, another genus which I've I suppose quite recently become interested in, although I have talked on other videos about being more interested in South American cacti as a general rule than North American cacti. This is a little sulco rubusia called Sulco rubusia purpurea, okay, which has those pinkish purple flowers and that typical sulco small body. Now botanically, although many collectors have specialised in Sulco rubusia, the truth of the matter is that Sulco rubusia is now been subsumed into rubusia, the whole body group. So at the end of the day, Sulco rubusia doesn't really exist botanically anymore. which is a shame because the Sulco Rebutia actually all forms a very natural grouping. The plants are quite similar. They form a natural set for collectors. They have similar large flowers for the small bodies. They make similar large groupings. They offset very freely. So I think really Sulco Rebutia, Weingartia and Rebutia, it would be quite useful for them to stay as separate groups, but genetically apparently they're close enough to all be considered to be Rebutias. So at the end of the day, Sulco Rebutia is another addition to the small globular South American cacti section, along with Jimno Coliseum, Friedrichii, and I'll just do a quick scan over what we've got. I hope there are no more untoward interruptions. So we have that very unusual Bulbinae, Bulbinae mesembryanthemodies, and then we have that first slightly larger Jimno Coliseum. That's Jimno Coliseum Bertie, very dark bodied, very attractive plant. I love that, I really do. Then we have another hybrid Aloe from Kelly Griffin. This is either Bright Star or Donny, depending on which version of the name you want to use. Then we had another Jimno Coliseum. This is Jimno Coliseum Quellianum. Another beautiful geometrically precise growth pattern there. Really nice. Then we had that first of the two columnar Hawa Theas. This is Hawa Thea coarctata. It's a much more longer body shape than you normally associate with Hawa Theas. Then you have the Aloe longistyla, a species Aloe, very pale green, almost a sea green, I think some people would call that, lighter than a grass green and not bright enough to be a lime green. I won't be the final arbiter on which shade of green it is, you can decide. Then we have that little Sulco that we saw at the end there, a Sulco Rebutia purpurea, again lovely geometry there, Sulco Rebutia purpurea. Then there was another little Jimno Coliseum stenopleurum, also known as Friedrichii, and also known as, confusingly enough, Mihanovicii, depending on which classification you use. But it's that very angular, pointed, tubercle version of that small growing Jimno. Then you had the second of the columnar Hawa Theas. This is Hawa Thea reinwartii, a small, very bright tubercles on this one, very pearly, almost like that very pearly former of Hawa Thea minima you sometimes see, with a very bright white cuticles lining the outside of the leaves. Very attractive. And then you had that very unusual Bulbinae, that soft-leaved, very xerophytic, highly adapted former that grows out of its swollen taproot system. A real geophyte there. And then finally that very spiny, tiny little Jimno at the end with those enormous long spines. So that's a lovely medium-sized haul from David Neville. Please do check out David's stock on SolentGuy, trading on eBayUK. He's a great guy, great communications. Any questions you have, he'd be very happy to answer. Very reasonably priced plants. None of these plants cost more than £5 or £6 in English money, so what, $7 or $8 in American money. Very high standard, beautiful specimen plants he will grow into. So I'm going to pop these up now before I have my lunch, and some pictures of these will be appearing on Facebook, on the Kirkstone Botanica Facebook page very soon, and also on Instagram on Kirkstone Botanica 2007. And please do join in the chats, show us pictures of your own collection. We love to see other people's plants. We love our plants, but we do get tired of seeing our own plants every single day, which we do. So show us something new, show us something different, and if you do have any cultivation questions, or indeed cultivation advice, we'd love to hear it. See you soon. Bye bye now. Bye bye.